Joining me now, Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today, Symone Sanders-Townsend, former senior advisor to Vice President Harris and host of Symone on MSNBC, and Brendan Buck, former advisor to House Speakers Boehner and Ryan. He's also an NBC News political analyst. Thank you for being here all. I want to start with this breaking news that Monica just reported, Susan, the fact that President Biden is now going to the picket lines. He's going to meet with union members in this UAW auto worker strike. What is the significance? What are the politics around this?
First, let me ask, who are the 5% who think our government is working?
Yes, exactly.
We need to call them.
Employees of the Congress?
We've been saying that. We got to find them and bring them here.
Let's find that 5%.
Yes.
You know, I think President Biden was a little slow to get to the picket line and preempt, and then former President Trump said he was going to go. This is an important vote for him. This is an important group of voters for him, these union workers. And the strike it carries some peril for him if it has a big economic impact. So this is not a surprise really he's going to the picket line. Maybe a surprise it took him so long to say he was going to go there.
Pick up on that point, Symone, because you have former President Trump who has been saying now for a week he's going to go. He's counter-programming the GOP primary debate, which he's skipping, by the way. It underscores the importance of union workers. But Biden has always said he's the union president. Why did it take him so long to reach this conclusion?
You know, look, and I think Biden, and they have done a lot as it relates to unions and labor in this administration. But the implications, as Susan just alluded to, are very real. Look, you have electric vehicles. You have the parts piece that, you know, Monica laid out and folks have, and Jesse talked about. And if this affects how Americans already, folks feel like it takes a little longer to get the things they need. If this affects that, if prices go up because there are not a lot of parts and whatnot, then yes, the president will bear some responsibility. And so I think the White House has been walking a kind of line. I don't think there's any doubt that, you know, President Biden stands with the UAW workers, but nobody wants a strike. And the White House for a while didn't think there was going to be a strike at all until, you know, some union folks and Debbie Dingell had to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, y'all need to come. Y'all need to look what's going on in Michigan.
This is a real thing. Talking about the potential ripple effects of that and pivoting to another crisis that we are watching, Brendan, the potential ripple effects if there's a government shutdown. You know this all too well. You have been on Capitol Hill when things are at the brink. Do you see Republicans finding a resolution to this? I mean, how does this all end? Or do you think we're headed for a shutdown?
Yeah, it's actually really hard to parse out because I've been through several government shutdowns and I've never seen a situation this dire. I mean, there's so much effort and energy and hurt feelings around just a House bill that is dead on arrival, like no question. No one is even asking the question, how are you going to get something through the Senate and through the White House? This is all about Republicans' unwillingness to do anything with Democrats. It's the culture of the House Republican Conference. It always has to be us. Can't ever do anything with Democrats. And they're not even entertaining those questions that are so obvious. This has to be bipartisan, but they can't even get themselves there.
Susan, to that point, I mean, how does this end, given the gridlock that Brendan just laid out? And when you hear that context, that he's never seen anything this bad, I mean, are we just headed for a shutdown? And is the real question how long it's going to last?
You know, it's not even that Republicans are unwilling to engage in bipartisan action with Democrats. It's that Republicans are at war with one another. And I think it is very hard to see how we do not have a shutdown. The question is how long it will go on. And the other question is, does Speaker McCarthy survive a shutdown, and what then has to happen to get the government back up and running?
You take me to my next question. Is he going to survive this? Symone, obviously not your party, but you understand the politics well. Do you think his speakership survives this?
You know, I am leaning towards the no. And this takes me back to the debt ceiling. Yes, it just takes me back to the debt ceiling fight. I remember when there was all this fight about the debt ceiling, and it ended up that the White House did end up negotiating with Speaker McCarthy on the debt ceiling, essentially the budget as well. And that negotiation had to happen because if not, it would be the White House that would have borne the brunt of the fallout. In this situation, Speaker McCarthy needs to negotiate with Democrats, and he does not look like he will. It seems as though he will not. The Democrats are not going to lean over to offer olive branches. And because he, at this point, will not, he will bear the brunt of the fallout, and I think that's why his speakership will not survive. He doesn't run the caucus.
It's hard to look at this and not think that some of the House Republicans are doing this to set him up to fail at some point. I mean, it is nonsensical. Some of the things that they are talking about, their unwillingness to do anything reasonable, it feels like they're just setting him up to blame him later.
And, you know, Democrats would be happier about that if they had some idea who was going to follow him.
Right.
And whether it would be someone who'd be worse or better for their
This
interests.
is true. It might be another 15 rounds.
Well, and I guess that's the big question. And for this, Symone, I go back to you. I mean, you do have a little bit of movement with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying, look, let's get something done on the Senate side and then force a vote in the House. Do you think that's how this ends? And does the president need to intervene here? He's still the president. This is still his government.
I just wonder what kind of sway Joe Biden has on Speaker McCarthy. Remember, Speaker McCarthy
Well, how
and
about
Joe
his
Biden.
bully pulpit? He could use his bully pulpit.
They did their negotiations, though. Joe Biden said he was not going to negotiate on the budget. He did during the debt ceiling fight, and it was that negotiation that Speaker McCarthy could not come back and sell to his entire caucus. I think what happens is the Senate, they get together, they be the adults that they are, they try to force something in the House, but again, I just do not see Speaker McCarthy playing ball. This is like the third strike for him as it relates to the Freedom Caucus.
I think the White House and Chuck Schumer all know they can't bail him out yet. Kevin McCarthy needs to fail a few more times. He needs to fail right up to the deadline. And basically get permission. I have tried everything, guys. I've gone down every path you've wanted me to. None of them work. I'm sorry. I have to go. He'll still catch grief, but he has to go through all of these stages to get there.
Let's talk about the other big story on Capitol Hill today. Senator Bob Menendez and his wife have been indicted on bribery charges, among other things. Susan, how big of a bombshell is this? And which party kind of bears the bigger blow in this sense? Because on the one hand, you have it kind of undercutting the key argument from Republicans that there are two systems of justice. On the other hand, the Democrats don't welcome this news.
You know, you're innocent until you're proven guilty, but boy, did the U.S. attorney make Menendez look guilty with his indictment. I mean, it's almost comical, the gold bars and the Mercedes, and I mean, it's quite the indictment. I think it's bad for Democrats. I'd be surprised if Menendez survives as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It's bad for politics. I mean, it's bad for trust in our government. And it's probably also bad for Republicans because, as you say, this Justice Department, led by Merrick Garland, doesn't just go after Republicans like Donald Trump. They're going after a very senior Democrat.
Symone, how much concern is there if, in fact, it gets to a point, and we're not there yet, as Susan says, you are innocent until proven guilty, but if he winds up stepping down or if he's primaried, I mean, how concerned are Democrats that this seat could be in jeopardy? New Jersey, obviously, is a blue state.
It's a blue state. It's been a blue seat for a very long time, so I don't think Democrats are concerned about losing the seat, but I think this is bad for not just the optics, but how people feel, right? It's very hard to distinguish if, you know, Democrats are going out there on the campaign trail saying, we are the party, you know, these folks say they're the party of law and order, but we are the party of law and order. We are the party that are standing up, and we are not the corrupt folks they are. It's kind of difficult when you have a sitting United States senator, chairman of the committee, which I do believe, given the Senate rules, he is stepping down, though, who it just muddies the waters. And this is why people feel as though, regular American folks, not political professionals, that Democrats and Republicans is kind of all the same, even though it is not.
Right, Brendan, it goes back to where we started the conversation. Only 5% say the government's working.
Yeah, they're losing the moral high ground is what they're losing. And that's the argument they've been trying to make is, you know, the Republicans are the corrupt party, and this really undercuts that. The other issue is you have a person who's clearly very dug in. You know, usually somebody gets caught with gold bars, they kind of understand maybe the time for me to go. This is a person who's been indicted previously for corruption. Obviously, that ended in a mistrial. But someone who doesn't seem like he's ready to leave and is probably going to fight this out. And it's kind of the same deal we're running into with George Santos in the House, who doesn't feel like he feels like the need to leave. The longer he sticks around, the more problems he creates.
Finally, last topic, Susan, and we only have about a minute left, but weigh in on this crisis on the border. You have the Biden administration, this all-hands-on-deck approach. They're sending troops down, this temporary protective status for Venezuelan migrants, about 500,000 of them. Obviously, this is a situation that ebbs and flows, but do you think this feels different this time around?
I think no more difficult issue exists for this administration than the issue of the crisis at the border. It's hard to deny it's not a crisis. And now we have not only Republicans in Texas talking about it, but Democrats in New York City and New York State, saying it's a crisis and calling on the administration to do more. This action on Venezuelans, allowing close to 500,000 Venezuelans to work legally, an important step, but the concern is, does that just encourage more people to come over the border illegally?
And some advocates say actually it should be expanded to more nationalities, so they're getting it from both sides. Thank you all. Fantastic conversation. Susan, Symone, and Brendan, appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.